Hello and welcome to the Crochet Cakes YouTube channel. In today's video, we are going to be learning how to crochet an Acorn Granny Square. Last year, I shared with you how to crochet the pumpkin granny square, and honestly, I always meant to crochet an Acorn Granny Square with you, and it's now finally the time. Now, to crochet this Acorn Granny Square, we're going to be needing 3 colors of yarn. Here, as you can see in the sample, I've used a kind of creamy base, brown, and then white for the border. These are all 100% cotton yarns, but whatever yarn you have is, of course, absolutely fine. And I'm going to be using a 5mm crochet hook in this tutorial. You're also going to need a pair of scissors. To crochet up this Acorn Granny Square, we first begin with the acorn motif. Now, after we crochet the acorn, the second thing that we're going to be doing is that we're going to be slip stitching around our acorn so that then we can move on to the third and final step of this granny square, which is working the granny stitches. Now, the acorn is a little bit slanted, and I did that on purpose because I wanted to kind of show the acorns that you typically see on the ground, and I don't know, I always find them at a little bit of a slant, but you can block this so that it sits straight, or you can play around with where you pick up stitches so that you can have a perfectly straight acorn motif inside your granny square. Okay, so to begin, as I said, we are going to start with our color 1 for the acorn. Mine happens to be the color Oasis, which is kind of a very, very light coffee. And then it's got specks of brown, red, and green. So we are going to begin by doing a slip knot. Okay, however you do yours, I just happen to loop mine and then insert my hook, yarn over, pull, okay, and now we are going to do a chain of 2. And into this second chain from the hook, we are going to work a single crochet, and this is row 1. I like to work my single crochet under 2 loops. Okay, and now we're going to start row 2. Going to chain 1, and we are going to turn. Now in row 2, we're going to be working 6 single crochets into this single crochet. So I'm just going to be going into the single crochet, and I'm going to be working 6 single crochets. So that's 1, that's 2, that's 3, so what we have here, row 1 is now kind of hidden because it was that single crochet that we did, and row 2 kind of forms an arch, right? Because we did 6 single crochets into that 1 single crochet. So now we're going to chain 1 and turn, and we're going to begin row 3. To begin row 3, we are going to work a single crochet in this first stitch. Okay, and now in the second stitch, we are going to work an increase. So that would be single crochet to increase to signify that we do 2 single crochets in the next stitch. Okay, and now we are going to work a single crochet in the next stitch. Okay, so I know that it looks right now as if we only have 2 stitches remaining, but there's actually 3. There's 1, 2, and if we turn, 3, okay? So we've done 1 single crochet, and now we're going to do another single crochet. Now we have 2 stitches left, so into this next stitch we're going to work an increase. And in the last stitch, we're just going to work a single crochet. Okay. Now I'm going to chain 1, and I'm going to turn, and this is row 4. Now for row 4, we are going to repeat row 3, and row 3 is, again, do a single crochet in that first stitch, single crochet to increase, so work 2 single crochets into the next stitch, right? And now we are going to single crochet until we have 2 stitches remaining. So we are going to single crochet in each stitch until we have 2 stitches remaining. Once we have 2 stitches remaining, we're going to work a single crochet increase in the next stitch. And we're going to work 1 final single crochet in the last stitch of the row. And now we're going to chain 1 and turn. At this point, we should have 10 single crochets, so I'm going to count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yes, we have 10 single crochets. Perfect. So now we are going to work 3 rows where we just work a single crochet in each stitch. So again, for the next 3 rows, we're just going to work a single crochet in each stitch. Okay, remember to chain 1 and turn at the end of every row. So that was 1 row of single crochet. Now we do 2 more rows of single crochet, and I will meet you back here for when we change colors and begin the little cap on our acorn. I've just completed the 3 rows of single crochet that we were supposed to do, and now we should have a total of 7 Right, well, we should have a total of 7 rows and 10 stitches still, okay? Now, as I said, we're going to start doing the cap for our acorn, which means that we are going to be introducing our second color. For me, it's brown, and I'm going to play around with the lighting of the video to really make this part pop so that you can see what I'm doing, but I promise to walk you through every step. The first thing we need to do is change colors. Now, the way I change color is going to be pulling up that loop from the completed single crochet very long, and then I'm going to insert my hook into the front loop of the stitch and then through that left leg of the single crochet, which basically just brings 2 loops back into the hook for an uncompleted single crochet. And now I'm going to take this color too, but I'm actually going to be leaving a long tail because we're going to be needing that tail for slip stitches later on. So I'm leaving that long tail, putting it on my hook and pulling through. Okay, now to really lock this in place, I'm going to put the yarn that I'm going to be cutting off, so that base color, I'm going to tug it up so that it is forming a loop over the color that I'm bringing in. Do you see that? And then I'm going to yarn over and I'm going to chain one to lock the new color and the old color in place. So you can see how it looks from the back. And now if we pull that tightly, we lock in our new color as well as, oops, the old color. See? Okay, now we're not gonna cut our color one for the acorn because again, we're gonna be using that to make slip stitches. And I don't really like to guesstimate too much because I'm a horrible guesser. So I just leave the color attached. It doesn't really bother me to work around it. So now we're gonna turn our work. And we're gonna carry this color one to this other side because we're gonna need it on this other side when we slip stitch, okay? So, taking this color, what we're gonna be doing now is that we're going to be working a single crochet in the first stitch, a chain of one, and again into that first stitch, a second single crochet. This will give us a little bit of a curve. Okay, and now I'm simply going to continue working a single crochet in each stitch until I get to that last stitch. So again, now I'm just going to work a single crochet in each stitch. Okay, I'm at that last stitch again. So here I'm going to do a single crochet, a chain one, and a single crochet. And we've completed row one of our cap. Now I'm gonna let that color one go. I'm gonna chain one and I'm gonna turn. And we're gonna work a single crochet in each stitch. That means that we're gonna be skipping those chain ones that we did to kind of form a corner. We're gonna be skipping those. So again, just a single crochet in each stitch. And that means that at the end of this row two for the cap, we should have a total of 12 single crochets. So again, here we have single crochet, chain one, single crochet. So we're going to work a single crochet into this stitch. We're going to skip the chain one and work a single crochet in that last stitch. Let's review that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Perfect. All right, so after we do those 12 stitches, we're going to chain one and we're going to turn. And we're going to do a single crochet decrease. So for this acorn motif, I actually like to do the traditional single crochet 2 decrease. So that would be inserting the hook, picking up a loop, going into my next stitch, inserting the hook, picking up a loop, 2 loops on the hook, decrease. Okay, and now we're going to work a single crochet in each stitch until we are 2 stitches away from the end of the row. So we're stopping our single crochets right here, and we have 2 stitches remaining. Okay, I'm going to do that and meet you back. Oops. Okay, so I have 2 stitches remaining. Now I'm going to do a decrease, and again, that is a single crochet, 2 decrease. Perfect. Now we should have 10 stitches once we complete this row. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Perfect. Now we chain 1 and we turn. And we're going to work 2 single crochet decreases. So that means that we're going to do single crochet 2 decrease twice, or times 2. So this is our first single crochet decrease. And now the second single crochet decrease. All right, and now we are going to single crochet until we have 4 stitches remaining. So 1 single crochet, 2 single crochets, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4 stitches remaining. So that means that we are going to do 2 single crochet decreases. Okay. And that is the last row for our acorn. We should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stitches at the top. So now we've completed our acorn motif. It is time to work slip stitches around our acorn motif. And the reason we are working slip stitches is so we have a base to work our granny stitches out of. If we don't kind of protect this acorn shape, then we're going to end up not disfiguring the shape, but the shape won't be as clear. I'm going to show you an example. Okay, so this was my first iteration of the Acorn Granny Square. You can see that you can still sort of tell that this was maybe an acorn, but because we picked up the stitches directly from the motif, we've kind of disfigured our motif a little bit, okay? We've transitioned it into a different kind of thing. And I wanted to keep the acorn shape as intact as possible. So that is why we are going to now be working slip stitches. All right. In order to do that, we are going to chain 1 and turn. Now I'm going to work a slip stitch in every stitch. If you don't tend to work slip stitches loosely, then I recommend that you go up to a 5.5 millimeter crochet hook, just because then that will make it easier for working the motif, so you don't really disfigure it by slip stitching too tightly. In fact, you know what? Let's everyone do that. Let's switch to a 5.5 millimeter crochet hook for the slip stitching. I actually need to find one. I'll be right back. Here we are, a 5.5, still a tulip, but this is Edemo Rose, which even though I'm not a pink curly, I just prefer how the Edemo Rose crochets versus this, just their Edemo. But this one is cheaper than this one. Anyway, right, back to the tutorial. We are meant to be slip stitching in every stitch. So my first slip stitch right there. And again, try to keep these loose because we're going to be working into these stitches in the next round. All right. here is where it can kind of get a little confusing, because now we're going to be slip stitching on the raw edge of the work, right? So what I'm going to try and do, and I want you to do as well, is to do a slip stitch per row, okay? So if we count our rows, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that is 9 slip stitches going down, a slip stitch in the middle, and then 9 slip stitches going up, okay? So here in this decrease, you can do the slip stitch right into the body, right there where there's a little bit of a gap. Now here, we're gonna kind of go into this stitch, right? And now here, we're gonna wrap around the body. And now we're gonna let go of our brown yarn, and it's gonna be easier to see what I mean. We're gonna leave enough of a tail to be able to weave in. I'm very bad at that because I consider it kind of wasting yarn. It's not. You need to weave in your tails nicely. Now we're gonna pick up, do you see that color 1? That's why we didn't cut it, because now we're gonna need it. And right into the stitch here, we're gonna insert our hook, and I'm gonna pull my brown yarn a little tight, and I'm gonna bring up a loop with the color 1 and thread it through. Okay, and now at the base of this, okay, and if you do more or less stitches, it doesn't really matter because we can skip them when we're working our granny square. We're going to be needing a total of 24 stitches for that first round of our granny square, okay? Okay. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now we're gonna do 9. Okay. And now we're gonna go up on this other side. And when we reach the brown part, we're gonna switch colors and work the last of the slip stitches with the brown. Okay, now I'm gonna let go of that color 1. Now we need to switch colors, so I'm going to bring this brown thread this way, because that's where I need it to be, facing away from me. Okay, now I'm gonna insert my hook into this space right here. I'm gonna make sure here. Oops. I didn't leave enough of a long tail. You see what I mean? I'm horrible about leaving enough tails. So now I'm going to slip stitch into that first stitch to join the round. Okay, let's do that part again because maybe you may have missed it. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. Right? So I just have one extra stitch than what we needed. Now I'm going to insert my hook into that very first stitch, and I'm going to yarn over with my very stubby tail, and I'm going to pull through the loop. Eep. And I'm going to, all right, that's a very bad tail, but that's what we got to work with. Okay, now I can cut all remaining threads. All right, so now we're gonna turn our work, and it's time to begin our granny square round. So I'm gonna go back to my 5mm crochet hook, and I'm gonna look at my little acorn here, and I'm gonna spot the middleest slip stitch, and I'm gonna insert my crochet hook into the slip stitch. So it can be kind of hard to tell, right? But if we look at our work, this would be the stitch, right? And then behind it, you see these loops? These loops are your slip stitches, okay? So again, it's easy to tell here because the front, the top of our stitch is brown, and then the back where the slip stitch is cream. So that is our slip stitch. Okay, so again, we're gonna look at our acorn motif, and right about here is our middle. So I'm going to look at the top. This would be the top of the single crochet row. And right behind that here, this is the slip stitch, okay? And I'm actually gonna grab my brown yarn again because it's time to do our little acorn stem. This part is similar to working up the pumpkin granny square, okay? So I'm just gonna leave in a long enough tail to weave in, pull the yarn through the slip stitch. This time I'm going to begin with a chain of 3, and I'm going to do 2 more double crochets right into this same slip stitch. So that's the slip stitch, inserting my hook right back down there, okay, and again into that same space. I'm pulling the slip stitch so you can see it. So into that same space, I'm gonna be grabbing yarn, pulling through, and doing a double crochet. Now it's time to cut our brown yarn. And time to add the color for the granny square. To change color, here, what I'm going to be doing is, again, going to be inserting my hook through that top, through the front of loop of that stitch, and then through this loop directly below it, the front of that loop as well. And if we pull it through, you can see that it leaves an unfinished double crochet. Going to grab my white, and I'm going to pull the white through to complete that double crochet stitch. Now here, for this color change, I'm actually going to be working chain 1s between my granny stitches. I don't typically do that, but I'm going to show you why I like doing it when I'm switching colors if I can. So holding the white behind, the tail of the white yarn behind, I'm going to let go of what's going to be my working yarn, letting go of that for a moment. And I'm going to take that tail of the brown and I'm going to loop it over what's going to be my working yarn. And I'm going to catch it. Do you see? And now I'm going to do a chain with my working yarn. And that catches our brown yarn very nicely so that we can work over it in the next round. Okay, so we did that chain 1. Now I'm going to yarn over. Looking behind, I'm going to skip 2 slip stitches, and into the next slip stitch, I'm going to be working a granny corner. Okay, so granny corners for me are 2 granny stitches separated by a chain of 2. And if a granny stitch, if we break it down, is 3 double crochets, right? So here we are, 3 double crochets into that stitch. Now we're going to chain 2. And again, we're going to work 3 double crochets into this same stitch. I'm going to try working over that very mini tail, but I don't see that succeeding. Okay, now I'm going to chain 1 to separate the stitch. And here is where you can kind of play around with the placement of your granny stitches. If we look at the acorn, we've more or less established that the middle is where we made the stem. So if we go back down this way, there should be a granny stitch here, which means that on either side of this bottom middle, there should be granny corners. And so that leaves a granny stitch here, a granny stitch here, and then a granny corner up here. So we're kind of breaking our acorn into quadrants, okay? So 1, 2. This quadrant will have a granny stitch in a corner. This quadrant will have a granny stitch in a corner, granny stitch, corner, granny stitch, corner, okay? That's what we're gonna be doing now. If we look at the back of our work to better determine what we're skipping, this very next stitch here is not actually a stitch, that's the slip stitch we used to join in the round. So what we're actually going to be skipping is the slip stitch that's next to that, okay? So we're going to be skipping this slip stitch and this slip stitch, and we're going to be working here. So it's the same premise behind working your granny square. The only difference is that now we are working into the slip stitches. So now we're going to skip 2 stitches and do a granny corner. Now, if you find yourself that you made too many slip stitches, like 26 or 27, just skip more slip stitches between your granny stitches, or the other thing that you can do is split your granny corners. So instead of just working the granny corner all in the same stitch, work a granny stitch into a slip stitch, chain 2, and then complete your granny corner in the next slip stitch by just working a granny stitch. So in dividing the granny corner between these 2 slip stitches, we've eliminated one of our extra stitches and it doesn't look too gapey. Okay, see? It doesn't leave a huge gap and you've used up more stitches. So that's what I like to do if I end up with more slip stitches than I need to complete my round. And just as I said previously, before we began doing our granny corners, we just need 24 slip stitches for this round, okay? So now I'm going to chain 1 and I'm going to skip 2 stitches. And I'm going to work a granny stitch into the next slip stitch. So skipping 2 stitches, working a granny stitch in the next one. And I'm going to be working over my tail as I do that. Hello? Okay. And I'm going to be working over my tail as I do that. So I'm going to place my tail over my stitch. And when I pull through, that tail stays back there, okay? So that's 1, 2, 3 stitches for the granny stitch. Now let's chain 1, yarn over, skip 2 stitches, do a granny corner, So this is what we have up till now. We have granny corner, granny stitch, granny corner, granny stitch, granny corner. And like I said, if you want, you can move the placement of the stitches to play around and get a fully straight acorn, but I want mine just a smidge slanted. Right, we're gonna chain one, gonna skip 2 slip stitches, and into the next one, we are going to work a granny stitch. Hello? A granny stitch. Now again, I'm going to look at my work, make sure my placement matches. So quadrant, quadrant, okay? And last but not least, we're going to be chaining 1, skipping 2 stitches, working a granny corner in this slip stitch. Oops. There we are. The third one. All right, so now we're going to begin the last round of the granny square. And as I said, since we started with since we closed the round with that single crochet into the first stitch, it leaves us the perfect space to actually begin our granny stitch in a space. So I'm going to insert my hook in there, and I'm going to work a single crochet. And I'm going to insert my hook into that left leg of the single crochet, pull up a loop, and that replaces our chain 3. It's an alternate way of doing a beginning double crochet. We call this a stacked single crochet. Now I'm going to chain 1 that skips the granny stitch, and we're going to, for this round, work granny stitches in the chain 1 spaces and corners in the chain 2 spaces. So for the granny stitch, I'm going to actually be holding this yarn in the back of the work so that I can weave the ends as I go. You can see the yarns there at the back. This is a chain 1 space, so we work a granny stitch. And again, I'm working over the tails as I work this granny stitch. Now we're going to chain 1. The corners for this round are going to be slightly different because I really want to exaggerate them. So we are going to be working extended double crochet stitches into the chain 2 spaces. We're going to start with a yarn over, insert our hook into the space, yarn over, pull up a loop. Now we're going to yarn over and we're going to pull through that first loop on the hook. This extends the double crochet stitch, okay? So pulling through that first loop on the hook, we still have 3 remaining loops on the hook. So I am going to yarn over once again, pull through 2 loops, and then yarn over, pull through 2 loops. And if we look at our stitch, we see that at the top we have the typical double crochet, and at the bottom we have that kind of chain 1 that extends the stitch. Let's continue. We're just going to yarn over, insert our hook into that space, yarn over, pull up a loop, and I'm going to yarn over, pull through 1 loop to extend my double crochet. Now I'm going to yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops to complete my double crochet. So our corners are going to be 2 extended double crochets, chain 2, 2 extended double crochets, all into this same space. So again, yarn over, pull through that first loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2. All right, now I'm going to chain 1, and we're going to continue working granny stitches in the chain 1 spaces until we get to the chain 2 spaces for the corners. Right, chain 1. And again, we've come upon a chain 2 space. It is a corner, so again, we're going to do extended double crochet stitches. So, boom, boom. 3 loops on the hook. Yarn over, pull through 1 loop, yarn over, pull through 2 to start the double crochet, yarn over, pull through 2, that ends the double crochet. Again, we yarn over once, insert our hook through the space, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 1 loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Okay, after completing 2 extended double crochets, for our corner we do a chain of 2, and then we complete 2 more extended double crochets into this space. Now we're going to chain 1, and again work a granny stitch in the chain 1 spaces, and then we're going to work a corner into the chain 2 space. I've just completed 2 granny stitches because it's a granny stitch in each of the chain 1 spaces, and now I'm going to work a corner into this chain 2 space. Now remember, the corners for this Acorn Granny Square are going to be 2 extended double crochets, a chain of 2, and then 2 extended double crochets. Again, the corner for this Acorn Granny Square is going to be 2 extended double crochet stitches, a chain of 2, and 2 extended double crochet stitches, all in that same chain 2 space. Now we're going to chain 1, and we're going to work a granny stitch in each chain 1 space and then a corner. Now this part I'm going to let you work on your own. I will meet you back here to end the round. Remember, we're going to end the round after we complete this last corner. Okay, we've completed the last corner. Now we're going to chain 1. And we come upon that lone double crochet that we did at the very beginning. So now we have to close the round by completing the granny stitch in this space. So that would just be making 2 double crochets into that initial space. Once we've completed those 2 double crochets, we are going to slip stitch into the very first stitch of that round, and we're going to pull that tightly. And we've just completed our very first Acorn Granny Square. Now I do say our first because I have in the works another Acorn Granny Square tutorial. It's going to be different from this one. The shape is going to be a little bit different, and the stitches we use are also going to vary a little bit. But for now, I leave you with this really cutesy Acorn Granny Square. You can use this to make a granny square bag. You could even use this to make a nice little top, like when we did the linen stitch granny square top. Or if you're in the mood to continue autumnal making, then I also have a pumpkin granny square tutorial. Thank you so much for spending a little bit of your crafty time with me. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I will see you in the next video.